Everyone say hello to our new mascots. I don't have a name for the cat yet, but the dinosaur, which is a T-Rex, is called Tail the Proton. So everyone say hello to Tail the Proton and unnamed cat. Hey guys, what's up? I'm CJ and welcome back to my galaxy. Today we're discussing none other than The Simpsons. So I have been recently watching The Simpsons. We're up to season 35 now. I believe The Simpsons is the longest running Hollywood animated film to date, which is insane that they've got 35 seasons, but I would like to discuss today why season 35 and a couple seasons before that, it has gotten a bit tired. Now, when I say tired, what exactly do I mean? I mean that the gags are tired and characters are disappearing, and they have been for a while. There are plots that are getting reset. There's no characters sticking to the new seasons and new episodes. There is no character development that is kind of essential for any show, especially nowadays, to continue running. Because it's no longer the 90s, and The Simpsons doesn't seem to be able to keep up with that. I haven't really spoken about The Simpsons on my channel before because I thought, quite naively, that The Simpsons was changing and that they were going to start improving their show a little bit and kind of modernizing a little bit more than they have in the past. You know, they have modernized themselves in the past a little bit. They made themselves a little less offensive to marginalized communities. They stopped strangling Bart, and most importantly, they just generally became more politically correct. But because they did that, they focused a lot more on pop culture and keeping up with that rather than the satire they were originally known for. Because The Simpsons had jokes that weren't offensive. They made fun of politicians. They made fun of the general outlook of the world. And in the recent seasons, they've been falling really short of doing that kind of satire. I know a lot of the fans of the show haven't really liked it since like 2025, that sort of area in the 20s, which is like a good decade ago. And a lot of people fell off of watching new seasons of The Simpsons. That being because they have used the same exhaustive gags for the past 35 years, and it's only just recently that they've started to change that up a bit. I would say around about season 30, The Simpsons began making their different animated characters have different animated faces. They were very exaggerated in design, and it really felt reminiscent of the original seasons, season 1 through to like 3, before they became comfortable with their modern design. On top of this, they usually had a formula where they would tell a story starting with one event happening to The Simpsons and then that leading to a completely different storyline that had nothing to do with the original story, but there was something that motivated them into what the actual episode was about. And then they started to switch that around a little bit, that there wasn't a beginning story that we just jumped straight into a complication or we jumped straight into some sort of action or whatever happened. They were trying to change their story formula. We were starting to see a real change with The Simpsons for the first time in 30 years, since they started in literally 1989. But then in my personal opinion, things started going kind of downhill again, that they stopped really doing that and that they became more comfortable with what their original formula was. Every so often, Bart would be strangled again, which was really weird to see for the first time again. I don't think they're doing it anymore, but there was an episode after they said they'd stop strangling Bart that they ended up doing it, which was really disappointing. And then there were episodes that were personally I found really offensive. There was one episode I think I recently watched, was in season 31, where Homer felt threatened by a lesbian woman who Homer thought was flirting with Marge and was going to take Marge away from him. That episode felt really weird, and they were becoming a little bit more offensive again. And every time I watch these episodes, I'm like, why can't you just change it up a little bit? So, how does The Simpsons change? Because we know The Simpsons has to change, because a lot of the fans haven't watched in over a decade. A lot of people who are still watching are finding the old gags to becoming really boring, because why can't you switch it up a little bit? You know, there are so many characters you have to play with, and then you just don't use any of the characters. There was one episode where Mo, I don't know if he got married, but he at least got engaged. I think her name was Maya. Engaged to Maya, right? And then where did she go? She did not become a recurring character. She completely disappeared, and that one really frustrated me. I know there are a bunch of different characters that have disappeared, but they completely get rid of them. And then there was another episode that Smithers had a bunch of character development to do with his relationship with Mr. Burns and people he was dating, and then they completely got rid of it. I think it was in season 33 that happened. And what happened to Smithers and his character development? Nowhere. I've seen some people saying that even Comic Book Guy gets heaps of character development, and then none of the other Simpsons characters do. Not even the main family. So like I said before, The Simpsons needs to change. How do they do that? Here's my suggestion on how I personally think they should do it, and what I would want to see, and how they could milk as much content from The Simpsons going into until all the producers die, I guess. I don't know. Until they can't produce The Simpsons anymore. You guys are gonna really hate me for this, but I'm gonna explain it, I swear. Okay? They start aging up the characters. I don't see why not. Now, I know The Simpsons has done quite a few episodes where they skip forward in the timeline, and some of them give us different perspectives of what the future would look like for The Simpsons, but there's nothing really set in stone. There are different alternate timelines they could go down, essentially. I feel as though aging up the characters would go really well with my point about there not being any character development for any of the characters in the show. So many shows rely heavily, in fact, I would go as far to say that all shows rely heavily on character development. Every show that's good has really good character development, and you can tell there are people who will say, oh, this character in this show had the most character development. One example, I don't know, Carol from The Walking Dead had heaps of character development. Who else? Steve from Stranger Things had heaps of character development. And that's what I would love to see with The Simpsons, is that we have seen the same family over and over and over again. The same personality traits. We know what these characters are like as people, but we're not putting them into any different scenarios because they're the same age. You can't put Lisa in college. In fact, they've already done that, but you can't make her a college student unless you skip forward in time, because otherwise the story is just going to be about an 8-year-old in college, which doesn't really make sense. And not to mention, they always reset it anyway, so at the end of the episode, Lisa's not going to be in college anymore. You can't give Bart a job, because it'll reset at the end of the episode. Any adventure Maggie goes on gets reset. In fact, we've seen Maggie speak and say her first words, and that is completely forgotten about. That kind of character development we don't see anymore in any of the main characters. So if we start aging up the main family at the very least, then we get to see how everyone interacts in Springfield. What does 13-year-old Lisa look like in Springfield? What does a 5-year-old Maggie look like going to an elementary school? The Simpsons writers have exhausted every storyline they could have for an 8-year-old Lisa, a 10-year-old Bart, a 10-month-old Maggie, and a 40-something-year-old Marge and Homer. Not to mention, if you age up the actual Simpsons, then you have to age up all the other characters, which would mean endless stories of different characters and how they develop through life and how they interact with the family as each one of them gets older. Which friends do the Simpsons kids make in high school? What's it like for Bart going to high school? Does he even make it to middle school or high school? Does he move on from Springfield Elementary? Who knows? I at least like to think he does. And they might be able to have a vote on who Lisa ends up with, Milhouse or Nelson, or someone better than the both of them. My vote's with Nelson, not Milhouse, unless Milhouse gets much more character development as he gets older. There are a lot of alternate timelines where Milhouse is a lot better. For a small period of time. At the moment, the episodes we get where the Simpsons and their personalities are at different events are typically episodes that are parroting another series in some way, and they do it multiple times a season, which is so weird that they're just filler episodes, and not every episode of the season should be a filler episode, and that's what it feels like, because you aren't aging up the characters, you aren't giving them character development. I think if they aged up the characters, they would really be able to milk maybe another like 30 years out of the series. Truly, because you don't need to age up each character every single year. Each season doesn't need to be another year. You need to just like give one character a birthday here, and then another wedding anniversary for Marge and Homer is here. It doesn't have to be just a constant aging up. It can happen very slowly, and then over time we see that they've moved on, they've grown up, which would be really cool to see. Especially rather than, what's the alternative? You know, if all the fans leave and they haven't changed how the series works, they cancel it and don't, we don't see another episode, we don't get any closure for certain storylines. This way we can tie off any loose ends, and as we go throughout the years, that we can just say, oh, this couple didn't show up again because they broke up last year, because you've had like a couple months of a time skip. And that means they can also try out new gags without it looking a little bit awkward for the series, because if we're really emphasizing aging up Bart, Lisa, and Maggie, then their personalities are going to change as they grow older. So their humor is going to be a little bit different, and then Marge and Homer are going to have to change their parenting style a little bit more. Maybe Homer has to be home more. That sounds like Homer, but he needs to be at the house more, raising his kids more, and they can make him into a better dad, an on-screen dad. That which would be great. That reminded me as well, there was one episode that they left off of where Homer became sober because he was essentially forced to, because there was like something that made him not be able to drink anymore. It was a whole thing. That was actually quite, I don't remember when it was. I think it was season 34, maybe season 33 to 34, something like that. And I really enjoyed that episode. But then they went back on it and he became an alcoholic again, and like, it'd be really nice to see Homer sober more of the time in more episodes. And if you aged them up, gave them a little bit more character development that stuck to the series, then he would be able to do that. Once again, if you had the character development and you had them aging up, because their relationships, Marge and Homer's relationships with their kids would change and grow, you'd be able to see more Homer and Lisa episodes, more Maggie and Homer episodes, more Bart and Marge episodes, where their relationship is changing and growing as each of them gets older. And I just think that would be really cute and really good for the series with them aging up. That way we can keep our beloved Simpsons series and not get bored of the gags that have been exhausted for over a decade now. I just don't see why they couldn't just like change it up a little bit and age them very, very slowly. I don't see the harm in doing that. And there are so many characters that we could explore without them being complete parody filler episodes. Man, I would love that if they just aged them up a little bit. Just make Lisa 9. Please. No, not Lisa. Not even Lisa, not Bart going to middle school. Maggie. Please age Maggie up, for the love of God. Maggie needs to be older, because she needs to, anyone who's watching this, I don't even need to finish that sentence, because we all know that Maggie needs more screen time and more development, because she is a chaotic character that I would love to see more of. Why don't we get an episode where the aliens, right, this is just me feeding an episode to the Simpsons writers right now. Why don't we have an episode where the aliens reveal to Springfield that they have given them some sort of serum or whatever that made them not be able to age up, or that Mr. Burns had the nuclear power plant have some sort of chemical that meant they weren't aging, and suddenly they figure it out and suddenly they start aging again. I don't see why they've made that kind of gag before, that there's a reason why they don't age. I don't see why they can't just do that again. Anyways, guys, The Simpsons needs to change, and we all know that. Even if you absolutely love The Simpsons, I've been watching The Simpsons for so long, for the majority of my life. We all know that it needs to at least tweak its formula a little bit and give us something different, to have some of the old characters come back that have disappeared, and just give us something different. It would be great to just change something so it has something unique about it and not just parodies all the time. And it made me realize that when the Harry and Sally parody episode came out. As much as I liked that episode, it did occur to me that there's a lot of filler episodes in each season. Alright, so that's it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I would love to hear your opinions down below in the comment section. What do you think is the best way for The Simpsons to change, and what made you realize The Simpsons needed to change in the first place? Or do you think The Simpsons doesn't need to change? Do you like the formula? I would also like to hear about that in the comment section down below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so I would really appreciate if you subscribed. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've been CJ. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!